going for it.
Immediately.
It does do 22,000
Oh!
kills, one hit.
Instantly.
Yeah, your eyes aren't playing tricks on you. Specimen Sez is officially back, and he's been picked over and over and over again in the content creator battle of 2024 to great effect. Hello everyone, Valky here with the first guide of 2024, and I want to specifically talk about our boy Specimen Sez, who had an amazing breakout performance during day 2 of the tournament, played many times on the day to different degrees of success. First, I want to give credit where it's due to global legend player AB for coming up with the build and playing it on his stream. If you're looking for the freshest meta reads, I definitely recommend his streams, as I just happened to be recommended his stream and played it on a big stage. With that being said, let's jump into the build. To address the elephant in the room, yeah, my build is cracked. But that doesn't mean you can't replicate this build, keep that in mind. My build is what I use to contend with these spooky, freaky legend players. If you're a master or a champion rank player, just make sure your gear is on par for your rank and upgrade as you climb. I would say a good starting point is about 4,200 attack by 330 crit damage, which I think is definitely doable if you have not been slacking on farming your destruction set, and trust me, this build goes hard. While most Specimen Sez builds are worried about evasion and how to set up stuns for him, AB's build takes advantage of Spez's old identity as a single target cleave nuker, which was what he did when he was first released. And you just run that raw damage without setting up any stuns, which now, especially since ML Sharoon is a unit, setting up stuns just becomes so much harder to do. The idea is to go for near maximum damage, recognize the weakest member of your opponent's team, and you just rip that S3 on them to reset your Wind Rider. Once you get that kill, it resets his ultimate as well, and he gains that bonus attack from the Wind Rider, and he should have enough damage to then snowball kills to anything in the game. Period. If you know how League of Legends Katarina works, or Phantom Assassin from Dota, then you know how to play Specimen Sez. Since this is somewhat of a cheese build, brute forcing as much damage as possible is your key here, which means I actually took gear from much more prioritized units like my Savior Auden as well as my Crescent Moon Bellona. However, this is not a build where you would roll away your HP or defense percentage for flat attack as you would do for many cleave units, as there is always a way for your opponents to ban around his setup or even himself. So the extra bulk paired with his new 50% evasion is clutch for keeping him alive through longer matches and sometimes dodging those clutch debuffs that will hamper his damage output. And speaking of the evasion, let me just gush about it real quick. Oh my god, 1, it's not tied to an evasion buff, means he can't be stripped like Remnant Violet, so if you get evasion buff on him somehow with the setup, he actually just goes untouchable. 2, it's not even tied to any passive, so units like Naquo can't even seal it out of him. It makes him super safe, especially if you opt for an evasion focused build, which is still great. Lastly, a lot of old units from back in the day, including Specimen Sez himself, also, like Judge Kisei, Green Lilibet, and Baiken as some examples, are meant to be paired with heavy-duty combat readiness pushers like Auxiliary Lots and Flan before Politis shut that meta down. So they lack the survivability of modern nukers like Zahhak with invincibility, Milim with her evasion, so Specimen Sez being modernized with his old damage ratio is insane. Alright, ran over. Back to the build. Key component here is a really nice destruction set attack main stat boot. Probably the only piece that really deviates from a normal build, but I think is very necessary for that juicy high damage. And the rest of his build looks something a little bit like this. Just show that real quick. And, you know, thankfully, this is a free boot as well as the necklace. We can get these for free. This is from Nightmare Raid, as well as the boot will be obtainable from the arena. And you do want a little bit of speed on each piece since you are on an attack boot and he would really love to be boosted to the top of the CR bar whenever you play him. And speaking of CR boost, this brings us to his best support, which by far the best one is Amelia, who can essentially push him all the way to the top, give him attack buff, and just let him rip that fatty nuke into your opponent's backside. Outside of Amelia, I also really like Bunny Dominion, who brings not only attack buff and the combat readiness, but also pushes your entire team. It helps a lot with the fluff and chip damage from your other characters and should go towards setting up that big payload delivery and try to get your reset. Dragon King Sharoon here, though, gets a very, very special mention from me, since alongside her and her Sacred Tree Branch artifact, not only CR pushes our boy, since his attack is so high, but also has 2 ways of setting him up, because both defense break and the stun is enough to let him one-tap any unit on this build without relying on attack buff. Those are really insane. You only need 1 condition to set him up for a full reset. And on the other side, I would say the biggest counters to this Spez build has just got to be straight up tanks. Anything that can reduce his damage output by a noticeable margin can stop him from getting that reset for his S3 ultimate. And it'll go on a huge cooldown. So he'll lose the evasion, and with that, all semblance of survivability will be gone from him, and we'll talk more about that later. But that's not a huge worry, since you should always be on the lookout for the squishiest unit to reset on. And in the case you can't, fluff them up with his S2 or your other units. And oh yeah, I'm pretty sure I don't need to mention, Lua is also a pretty big counter on this build, since you don't have immunity and you do not offer any protection versus skill resets or debuffs to protect versus your opponents, especially if they can just soul burn and it doesn't need to hit the land. So a lot of conditions for his success, few for his failure. That's what makes him strong. So now that you have all of this information, here's how he looks when played in full action, played by myself on day 2 of the quarterfinals of the Content Creator Battles.
Let's see how this goes.
Maybe Spez. Yeah.
Round
Let's
1.
see if Spez actually lands a stun at all this match.
Yeah, that 50%, 60% stuns are going to be crucial for Valky.
I don't know if any of you saw that, but it did say Wind Rider on this Specimen Sez. He's not using an evasion artifact.
So he's here to blow something up. He's
Yes,
here to do damage.
He is full damage right here.
Oh, immunities.
Yeah, the barrier set plus immunity actually does make it so that Lua's really not able to do all that much. Does this even strip anything? Oh man, the Rimuru, he's still sitting pretty, doesn't care.
Just like you predicted, that's a full ER Rimuru. He is sitting with his barrier comfy, I'd even point out.
He's probably really tanky too. I'm not really sure if this Specimen Sez can actually do it, but
Here's
I
the
mean,
pull.
Hey, let's find out.
We got a couple seconds to figure it out.
He's going for it.
Immediately.
It does do 22,000
Oh!
kills, 1 hit.
Sits that way. Now, this is
There it
the important thing, right? The kill guarantees the reset, so we've only got a couple more seconds till we see him pull off the same shenanigans, right?
Well, the thing is, he is going to be knocked out of stealth right here. The last Dark Pro did not get debuffed by this Angel of Light, which is a pretty big deal.
But still having now the skill mill as a plus will be stripped by the Evasion.
He did get hit there, but he resisted, and I mean, as long as I think he's totally safe, honestly, because the Senya's not going to be able to deal with him at all. Like, even if her S1 hits, he's going to survive.
And if we do get hit with some unfortunate debuffs, we've got the Amelia to cling in and cleanse us through them. Might be able to stabilize our draft just long enough to get the rest of these shenanigans underway.
Let me also say this, before anyone at home starts looking at their Specimen Sez doing, saying, I want to do the exact same thing, it requires insanely good damage gear to be able to build this Specimen Sez. Don't try this at home.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is I should get on it right away.
What you're saying is
Well,
that I
you
should
tried
put
it home.
my best gear on this guy.
Yeah.
I'm already re-gearing on the side actually right now.
Oh, okay.
Just slide the attack slider up, right? That's all I need. Does he
Yeah,
need
I
crit
think-
shot? No, I'm joking.
I think Eufine's dead.
I
Yeah,
don't
she's
think
gone.
I'm
With
about to say I
nothing
know
else on?
she's dead.
26,000. As you can see here, though, one thing to keep in mind, this crowd does not seem to be on Aureus. I believe he was on, like, Bastion or something, or Felucia or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it is making it a lot easier for him to one-shot everyone on the left side, too, as well.
Still, I feel like I'm watching a horror movie. Like random people are just being grabbed out of the shadows one at a time from
Yeah,
this
whenever
Specimen
they
Sez.
are isolated, they oftentimes disappear in the
Yeah,
scary
right.
movie.
It's just like that, yeah, one by one, like, hey, where'd you go?
crowd's sitting there. They can't get us if we split up. Everybody to the winds.
Everyone split up, gang, and hey, you see.
Here we go once again. Specimen Sez.
Oh,
the light
and
storm.
The tank's gone.
Wow,
the
even
crowd's
through the
gone.
night.
One by one.
Did we really need a buff on this guy? It didn't matter. The buff didn't really matter then, right?
Listen, it allowed people to feel confident to build this way, right? The increase in evasion is still an increase in defense, just in a more gambly type of way, right? You could even think of him as a tank. Because he's going to take as much damage, he just, you know, has to dodge. He's a tank with extra steps.
Oh, on top of that, decreased defense.
Yeah, essentially, the changes they made have not done anything in this match. Like,
Yeah, because it
literally did not matter
was only the
whatsoever that
evasion buff. So here's Senya alone, feeling lonely, trying to put on some barrier, and plus speed.
Looking around, where'd everybody go?
Oh, I'm pretty sure it's my turn soon enough. Here we go. 4 turns and 4 kills. Looking
defense
like
broken. And keep in mind, you get the Wind Rider damage boost. It's an insane amount of free
64K.
damage.
My
Where did they
goodness.
go? I
That's
wonder who
one
the
high
MVP of that
output.
match was.
And there you go. The new king of the meta. Just kidding. You know, for as good as I think he is, I still think he's a bit of around a pick 3 unit by the earliest, but most of the time you'll be picking him on pick 4, pick 5, just to close out your opponent. If he comes out too early, your opponent could always just tank it down, but that's mostly absolved by the dominance of Death Dealer Ray in this current meta, who really kills a lot of momentum of the meta where early knights are picked in the draft. And I think that makes Specimen Sez a very unique reset nuker in the current landscape of the game. In all honesty, all the BS aside, Specimen Sez is, at the very least, a fun character to play. And that's all I can ask for in a video game, honestly. I just want to have fun with my characters. And I think my boy Divine couldn't have put it any better during the cast. When you're operating with the Specimen Sez and you set up correctly, you really do feel like the axe murderer in a horror film, picking people off left and right. And during any high stakes match you might be playing, like in a tournament, it really just injects dopamine and adrenaline into your system, unlike anything else I've ever played in Epic 7. So if you have the necessary units and gear, I would highly, very strongly recommend you guys try this build out. And that's it for the guide today. If you're watching this video the week it came out, I hope to see you guys in the upcoming matches during this week's CCB. It's already been a lot of fun to play. Actually, not only to play, but also cast the event. So I hope you guys have been having a really good time with this one, especially since a lot of people seems to think this patch is kind of a dud and a snoozer, and I can't disagree more. I think this patch is actually fairly exciting with a lot of big changes. So, if you liked this video or you found it helpful, make sure to subscribe, since I'll probably be making more guides about the other fun units that went under the radar for this patch, as well as some of the meta draft guides once season officially kicks off again. So if you found it helpful, you know, help me back by liking the video and subscribing. If anything I forecasted sounds interesting to you. Discord is linked in the description as always if you like to have further and deeper discussions about RTA, and I'm always there for that. And that'll be it for me for today in this video. Make sure you guys take care, stay safe out there, and have a great day or night wherever you are. See ya! Wow, nailed that one. Okay, I'm getting it back.